Hi everybody, welcome to story time today. We are going to continue reading the same story we did yesterday, which is Be a Friend to Trees. And our learning target is the same. It's a continuation of yesterday's. It's I can determine the main idea of the text, Be a Friend to Trees. Remember, the main idea is what the book is mostly about. And what we're trying to figure out is what are the ways that people and animals depend on trees? Why do they need trees? How do they use trees? So before we get started with today's ways that animals and people use trees, I just want you to think and remember the ways that we learned yesterday. What are the important ways that animals and people use trees? Tell a family member what are 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 ways you remember that animals and people need trees. So just to review, we learned about 3 different ways people and animals use trees. Remember that the wood from trees makes a lot of wood products that we use. The bark makes our wood. Picnic tables, baskets, chairs, swings, fences. It also makes paper and cardboard. It also makes sap, which turns into syrup and gum and rubber. And it also gives us food. So we eat a lot of the fruits and nuts from the trees, and animals eat a lot of the other things like the leaves and the branches and the twigs and the acorns and all the other good things that come from trees. So today we're going to think about a few more ways that animals and people depend on trees, ways that they use the trees. So make sure that you really pay attention and think about all the ways, because there's a lot of them. Let's get started. Many animals make their homes in trees. Birds roost in trees. They build nests and raise their young in the trees. It means they raise their babies in the trees in their nests. Squirrels nest in trees too. Monkeys live in trees. Some tree frogs spend their whole lives in trees without ever coming down. Honeybees make hives in tree hollows. Many other insects also live in trees. Insects are bugs, and so do small creatures such as spiders. Deer find shelter beneath the trees of forests and woodlands. They find safe places to hide their young. So there's an important word in there, shelter. Shelter is a safe space or a place that gives us protection. So it could be your home. So for some of these animals, it could be their nest or wherever they live. But sometimes a shelter is not their home. It's just a quick temporary place for them to go. So like if there's a storm or there's a predator coming for them, they can hide under different parts of trees. So I want you to think, based on what we've just seen, about the ways that animals use trees a new way. What did you learn on these pages about how animals depend on trees? Tell a family member. And then I want you to choose one of these animals that we just read about and act out how they depend on trees based on what you learned today. So maybe you might act out a bird making a nest, or a monkey in the tree, or a deer hiding and getting shelter. Act it out. And remember, you can send me a picture or video if you want. All right, let's keep reading. There's even more ways that living things need trees. The roots of trees hold the soil in place. They keep it from washing away in heavy rains or floods of water from melting snow. When soil is held in place, water sinks into it and is stored in the ground. Many people depend on water that's stored underground. They draw it to the surface through wells. So because the roots are there, they keep the soil from moving around, and then the water can stay in there so it doesn't flood, and also people can get that water out if they need it. Trees do something else that's very important. It has to do with the air we breathe. Air is made of gases. One of them is oxygen. Let's say that word together. Oxygen. Let's tap out the syllables. Oxygen. Oxygen is the special air that helps all living things to breathe. So you can't see it, it's inside of air, and that's what helps and makes us breathe. And everybody, including animals and people, need oxygen. Each time we breathe, we take oxygen out of the air, but the supply is never used up. The reason is that trees and other green plants keep putting new oxygen in the air. They give off oxygen when they make their food. Trees make food inside of their leaves. The leaves can be broad, like the ones you see on a maple tree. So here's a maple leaf. Or they can be narrow and pointed, like the needle-shaped leaves you see on a fir or a pine tree. All of these green leaves do the same work. They make the food for trees. To make food, leaves use water, which they take from the ground. They use a gas called carbon dioxide, which they find in the air, so you can't see it. And they use sunlight as energy. With energy from the sun, green leaves put the water and carbon dioxide together. They make their own special kind of sugar. The making of food by plants is called photosynthesis, a word that means putting together with light. Photosynthesis. Impressive. So here's a picture of that. So you see the sun, which the leaves use for energy. You see the leaves getting water from the soil. So the water's coming up inside the roots, inside the tree. And then the carbon dioxide from the air comes into the leaves. So it's using the water, the carbon dioxide, and the sunlight to make its food. Trees need food just to stay alive. They also need food for growth, to make new wood, leaves, twigs, fruits, and nuts. Some of a tree's food is used right away, and some of it is stored for future use. So you see some twigs with new buds for leaves and flowers. You see the red mulberry, almonds, and Norway maple. All of that is made from the leaves' food. While making food, leaves also make oxygen that they don't need. They get rid of it by putting it into the air. So remember, we saw the water, the sunlight, and the carbon dioxide coming into the leaves, and they're making their food and making new things. And then they say, you know what, we've got some extra oxygen, we're gonna let it go back into the air. Before we move on to the next page, what did you learn about how trees make air and how we need the trees to breathe? Let's read a few more pages. Much of the oxygen that people and animals need comes from the trees. Without them, we might not be here or be able to breathe at all. So trees are more than nice, they're something we can't live without. And that is why everyone should be a friend to trees. And this page includes some ways that we can be friends to trees. So there are lots of things you can do to be a friend to trees. Here's a few. See how many more you can think of. Using less paper is a way to save trees. If you can, use a rag, a sponge, or a dish towel instead of paper towels. Take along a paper bag when you need to go to the market. Most bags can be used again and again. No one needs new bags every time. Better yet, take your own net or canvas bag to the market. Then you won't use the store's bags at all. If you buy something small and don't need a bag, you can say, "No thanks." Do you usually write on only one side of paper? Don't throw it out. Use the other side, use the back side of scrap paper to draw on or to use for something else. Recycling paper is another way to be a friend. When paper is recycled, it is shredded, mashed, washed, and made into new paper. Then we use less new paper, and that means that fewer trees need to be cut down. Suppose all the people in the United States recycled their Sunday newspapers. That would save 500,000 trees a week. Does your family recycle? Do you help? So if you recycle, people don't have to cut down new trees to make new paper or other things. And then there's something else you can do if you have the chance. Help plant a new tree. The end. What a great story. So before you do your writing assignment today, I want you to really think about what are all the ways that you learned about based on the illustrations, based on all the labels, based on the words that I read. What is this book mostly about? How do we need trees? How do people and animals depend on trees? Make sure you tell a family member before you start your writing. And I'll see you for story time tomorrow. Bye.